was placed in National Bank Trust Company with the intention of growing the fund to EC $100,000. National Trust facilitated this effort by providing a favorable rate of interest. Once the principal investment had reached this point in June 2004, and in keeping with the wishes of Mr. Collins, all interest earnings started being transferred to his private savings account. To date, over $43,000 has been transferred to Kim in this way, thereby showing a yield of approximately 67% on the initial investment made in 2001. Mr. Collins officially retired in September 2009, and again in keeping with his expressed wishes, the principal amount of the trust fund of EC $100,000 is now being turned over to him. The National Olympic Committee extends its immense gratitude to Mrs. Jennifer Nero, who as a private and impartial party has served to look after the fund and the interest of all concerned over the years. The National Olympic Committee congratulates him on reaching this stage in his career and again expresses its boundless appreciation to him for all the things that he has done and achieved for St. Kitts and Nevis. This country can never really repay the contribution that our hero has made. We wish him Godspeed and continued success in all his endeavors. So that is our official press release, and I'll now hand over to our President, Mr. Alfonso Bushwater, who will make a presentation.
Thank you very much, Freddie. I just also want to recognize the presence of Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Sports, EDAR, Mr. Larry Dazar, Kim Collins, our hero, and Mrs. Collins, and younger version of Collins present. The media, among the media, permit me to acknowledge the presence of our own consultant, Dr. Christine Baldwin, official photographer, Mr. Willett, and all our friends of the media. Welcome to Olympic House. Yeah, we are here this afternoon for, I would say, about four principal reasons. One of it, four reasons. Our principal reason being to hand over a check to Kim Collins. Secondly, a pertinent reason, which is to prove that impossible is nothing. Thirdly, out of politeness, because we want to say thank you and express appreciation to the organization and partners and patrons who made this afternoon's handing over ceremony possible. And fourthly, I hope we'll have an opportunity to reflect on a number of popular philosophies which come out of the process. The origins of this Kim Collins Trust Fund came out of the brain, so to speak, of a name you heard mentioned earlier, in the person of Mrs. Jennifer Byron Nero. She came up with the idea of what we could term a museum event. Now what do we mean by museum event? Something when we put in an effort, we don't make $1,000, we don't make $5,000. I'm sure some of you could speak to the fact of the number of fundraising activities we do, put in a lot of effort, and at the end of the day, all we're making is $250. I don't want you to think that one don't fill basket, but sometimes when you expend energy, you really want to make a substantial amount of money, especially when you have certain names like Kim Collins associated with that. So that was the idea. And the idea still is to have that as periodically as possible. The work which went into this suggested that it may not be possible every single year. It may not be possible annually. So it's out of that background came that we basically were looking to raise substantial amount of funds, which covers the second reason you see before you. There were some specific motivation triggers. A number of people were involved, and we kept on talking about it. It was right after Kim had done well at the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney, and a lot of other things were happening. We are talking about the opening of the stadium at Boardwalk, and we are still seeing some people running, youngsters in particular, primary school age, running without track shoes, barefooted without tracks, and people were moved by that. The other main triggering factor was the fact that we recognized that elite athletes who make significant contributions to sports development, to sports tourism, sometimes have to leave their career and often don't have much to turn to. or it may be as a result of injury which forced them to come out early. So it's out of that backbone came this whole idea of the museum event. Kim Collins fitted the bill well, because if you want to raise funds, things are going to prosper. Very often depends on who owns it. And in a sense, Kim Collins' name was a good name to use as a banner barrier. And usually who owns the product determines how much you make. And in truth and in fact, what happened finally, we established the Kim Collins Trust Fund. Permit me to acknowledge a number of people who had a lot to do with this. One name which comes up quite readily is Mr. Arthur Sharp. He was doing this in his individual capacity. And as good as the National Olympic Committee of St. Kitts and Nevis is, as good as the St. Kitts and Nevis Amateur Athletic Association is, by themselves and together, it needed an Arthur Sharp to do some of the things we do. I know there are many more Arthur Sharps around, but I don't know how many could duplicate the Arthur Sharp that I know. So I want to use this occasion to say a public thank you for him in the way he was able to encourage, entice, and persuade people to pay $500 for a ticket. Because when that was happening, there are a number of people saying, behind the body going to pay them money for a ticket. But sometimes we got a table with 10 people, $5,000 per table. And that set the trend for a new way of raising funds in St. Kitts. In fact, the museum event in which Mr. Sharp, the Olympic Committee, the Athletic Association, a number of individual companies and businesses were involved, preceded what now is called the Prime Minister's Gala. And I don't want to make too much noise so that government don't give us money sometimes. But we were able to make more money than the Prime Minister's Gala maker, just to show the kind of energy, thoughts, and so which went into it. Enough words and thanks cannot be expressed from Ms. Nell. Because usually what Ms. Jennifer Byron never did cost us money. We'd have had to pay an agent, pay a consultant to do that type of thing, which she did voluntarily over successive years. So I want to express on behalf of all the partners involved my profound thanks and gratitude.
I know Freddy talks a lot about all the memories that I've given this federation and everybody who follow myself in track and field. And I would like to be on the other side also. I would like to be the one who's sitting home watching the TV and saying, yes, go St. Kitts and Nevis go. And that is why, after so many years, I mean, it's been a long, long journey. And I say, well, probably there's a young boy out there that will take flag and raise it high. And you're going to go out and give us a lot more memories, but I want to be able to be alive when that happens. I want to see that. I want to be telling my kids, yeah, I've done it and I've seen it happen over and over again. And a lot of what's going on here is a lot of young kids, they want to do track and field now. Now that we have a new track, and there's young persons going out, there's Borgia, there's Chandler, there's young Mr. Rogers, and they're going out and they're doing well. So what we have now is a lot of parents coming forward and they want their kids to do track and field. And it's not happened yet, but I would like to invite you to keep your ears to the ground, because coming soon, hopefully this summer, I will put on one of my first track and field camp here in the Federation of St. Kitts. And that will cover everything there is to know about track and field. From warming up to stretching to drugs in the sport, everything you could think about. Being a student athlete, being a professional. All through my years, I've made friends with a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who are going to come down and help me talk about sports and encourage athletes, not just on the track, but also off the track, how you can do the right thing. Because we all know doing the bad thing is so easy to do. So I want to encourage parents, coaches, anybody who out there who want to learn about not just track and field, but running and fitness and nutrition, anything that's going to be along those lines coming this summer, look for it and keep your ears to the ground. And once again, thank everyone who's been here and who's been behind me over these years. I mean, it's, as I say, it's been a long, long journey.